Hello, everyone. I'm News Now from Fox host Pilar Arias, currently joined by Raven Smith. You are a recipient and now peer counselor for the mental health assistance from the VOA REST program. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Great, thanks. So, if you wouldn't mind, kind of give me a background, introduce yourself, and going through the program.
Okay, so my name is Raven Smith, and I am a veteran. I was in the Army for 11 years. And when I got out of the military, I went through a really tumultuous time. And so I was introduced to the VOA through the VA and ended up getting introduced to this program by one of the administrators of the program, Jillian Boyd. And she said, I think you'd be interested in this program. At the time, it was called SRT, which stood for Spiritual Resiliency Training. And it was the first pilot program done here in LA. And so that was November of 2017. I went through the program and it was so amazing. Um, so many different resources and things that they shared with us. I was like, I got to be a part of this. I want to, utilize this and spread it, So I asked, how could I become a facilitator? How could I get more involved? And last year, that same individual, Ms. Boyd, contacted me. She said, hey, here's an opportunity for you to become a facilitator. And I was like, let me jump on this because, we all want that opportunity to become part of something bigger than ourselves. I know that kind of sounds cliche, but, I was looking for some sort of purpose. And this provided that by so many different means. And so in the program, it was initially geared towards veterans, and now they've opened it up to civilians and more specifically frontline workers who have, been dealing and tackling with the COVID-19, the coronavirus. So it's just been a blessing to be a part of, something so huge, and we're growing and growing exponentially. It's been amazing. Just as much as the participants get from the program, I get something back from it as well because um, in the sessions that we do, it's almost as if you're talking to people about things that you may have experienced when it comes to moral distress or moral injury, and you feel like you're not in it alone. You have a safe space that you can go to and talk about these different issues. So it's been great.
Raven, if you don't mind, can you kind of expand on that when you're talking about moral injury, and what was the other word that you used?
Moral distress.
Yeah.
So moral injury is it's basically damage that's been done to an individual where they're deeply traumatized by something someone did to them that was morally wrong, or something they did to someone else that was morally wrong. And it's like a deep, deep, deep trauma. So in that moral injury, which is when I went through the program back in 2017, we spent so many countless hours, like for 6 days straight, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., kind of going through all of our stuff, and it was beneficial because of the resources and the things that they gave you, different tools that you could use to put in your tool bag, different breathing exercises, writing exercises, trust exercises. I mean, it's so many for you to choose from so that you could have these things at your disposal. And we use some of those things in the REST program now, to be able to help individuals who are going through, this pandemic. So moral distress it happens because meeting our moral expectations of ourselves is impossible in a major crisis. Um, a lot of times, too much is beyond our control, So we can feel overwhelmed, ashamed, guilty, different things like that, and sometimes devastated by our own failures. or by those who fail to support us. So REST is a program that kind of, you know, is a platform for people to come and be able to kind of talk about those different issues and realize that they're not alone. It's not therapy or anything like that. You just listen with an open heart and open mind. And a lot of times you find that another person's story resonates so much with yours that we have this thing we call the heart gesture, which shows that we're deeply listening. So you put your hand over your heart and it just lets the person know, I hear you. Because a lot of times people just want to be heard, you know. So
So how many frontline healthcare workers would you say that you've spoken with or you've helped through the REST program since you started being a mentor?
oh my God. We just started the program in over the summer of last year. The person who created this wonderful, wonderful program and platform for us, Dr. Rita Brock, she you know, contacted a bunch of us veterans and other different, you know, people that actually work for Volunteers of America, and said, hey, you know, would you be interested in doing this? This is what we're trying to do. We're switching gears. You guys have been through it. You guys have been trained as facilitators. Um, how would you like to be a part of this? And I jumped at the opportunity. Of course, we had to go through some training because we're not face to face anymore. We're doing Zoom calls. It seems like, you know, every 2 or 3 days, right? So I honestly can't count the number of individuals. It started kind of slow, but the numbers for sure have picked up since we started, and they actually picked up even more after the election. So we saw a little slight decline prior to that, and then right after the election, the numbers started picking up. So honestly, I can't count the number. It's for sure been, you know, probably hundreds of individuals so far.
Now you've already served our country. If you wouldn't mind talking about what's the difference between that service and the service that you're doing now through the REST program?
It's almost kind of one and the same. You'd be surprised how some of these frontline workers and vets, their stories kind of align because you know, under this code of conduct and how you are going to kind of help service people. So when you join the military, you know, you raise your right hand and you solemnly do swear to do X, Y, and Z. And I could imagine that in when you take that oath as a doctor, as a nurse, that is kind of like the same thing. You know, you want to make sure that you're not bringing any hurt, harm, or danger to anyone else as well as yourself. So a lot of times those that veteran and that frontline workers, as far as our healthcare workers, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I wouldn't really say it's much of a difference, um, because we have, you know, medical workers in the military as well, and so they probably are experiencing some of the same things that our front line workers, or were experiencing some of the same things that our frontline workers are experiencing now in this pandemic. So
What are some of the issues that people are either talking to you about or asking for resources or help with now during the pandemic?
as far as the REST program is
Mhm.
concerned, I wouldn't say they necessarily ask for resources, but if they are some available, we for sure will share those resources in the group. You know, we'll usually send a link or, you know, put it in the chat box. No one's necessarily asking for resources, but the tools that we do use, like I mentioned before, the breathing exercises, we do what's called a body scan, and it just really kind of gets you relaxed and in a place of being open to even share that traumatic experience. Because a lot of people come kind of closed off. You know, it's a group of strangers. You really don't want to open up too much. And most of the time, we facilitators will start off with one of our traumatic experiences so that they can see kind of how the platform goes, but also so that they can feel safe enough to open up to, share. And they don't have to if they don't want to, but, if they want, share some of their traumatic experiences.
What sort of experiences are you hearing from people? What are they going through?
A lot of people have suffered from COVID-19 themselves that have joined the group. They have had family members that have suffered from COVID-19 as well. Some of the frontline workers that have come to the group have expressed seeing such a mass group, such a large number of individuals coming into these hospitals, and how devastating it is for them to, it's almost like they don't, but they, have that feeling, I want to give up. I can't believe that this is happening on such a large scale. And I'm sure it's hard to see, just like a veteran going to Iraq. I served 2 tours in Iraq, 2 15-month tours. So I'm quite sure some of the things they were seeing or are seeing is very devastating, just like it is for a soldier that has been to war. So they share, all types of traumas as related to the pandemic, and some other, personal things too, not to get too detailed, but you know, a lot of stuff, a lot of their stuff stems from childhood experiences and things like that too. So you hear all types of stuff in these groups and sessions.
So honestly, you want to give back, you want to help, but when that trust is established and somebody does fully open up to you when they talk to you about these traumatic experiences or moral injuries, uh, you literally feel how they felt. Is that impacting you personally?
Oh, for sure. I was just co-hosting in a group yesterday, and it was about 3 or 4 of us. It was a smaller group, and literally every person that said something, each part of their story, like it was something in their story that resonated with me. And I was like, oh my God. One person talked about suicide. That resonated with me. Another person talked about going to the ocean and how that, was able to keep them calm and in a space of not, feeling too overwhelmed. I like going to the ocean myself, So, and then another individual talked about some stuff that happened over the holidays and how we have to, you know, um, remember what that's all about. Sometimes it's not about the gifts. Usually, when you have less, how it's, having those intangible things means more than a lot of times getting an actual gift. And I resonated with that. I was like thinking, man, there have been Christmases when I didn't have anything, but I was able to embrace my daughter and have one another and enjoy those moments more so than any gift that I could have gotten. So each individual expressed something in their story that they were sharing that I was like, wow, I really felt that it really resonated with me because I could feel it on some level because of something that I have gone through, or maybe I've had an experience with someone who has gone through, that same thing. So,
So if anything, it's making you feel better. It's not impacting you negatively when you hear about.
oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes. When we go through these sessions, usually at the end of the session, we talk about things that we have learned about ourselves after the session, things that we are grateful for. I usually like to end with affirmations. I always buy like these little cards, and I ended up getting an acts of kindness 52 card deck, and so I've been using those lately, and um, just sharing act of kindness or a positive affirmation or something that says, hey, we're still here, guys, we're still kicking and alive, and we still have a purpose. So even though we've experienced these things, you still can come to a place where you're thankful and grateful for the things that you do have, and the, the positive things in your life, and the positive people that have impacted or encouraged you in some way. And that's what that group is all about, letting people know that they're not alone, and that you have someone here that if you had need a shoulder to cry on, even though we're strangers. One of the things that I said that I learned yesterday, and it wasn't that I learned it, I was just reminded of it, is that we're all connected. Just me feeling a piece of each person's story, that was a reminder for me. Hey, we're all connected, some in some shape, form, or fashion. So um, sharing those positive affirmations, and leaving the group with like prayer for everyone to be well and be safe and treat each other with kindness, is it's always a plus to go inside of these meetings, feel relaxed during that breathing exercise and that body scan, being able to share. Sometimes some people share so much that it's almost like they're reliving that experience, and then being able to leave with a sense of calm and a sense of peace, that everything's going to be okay. And if you need to, you can come back the next day or next week, to be able to still kind of connect with someone and share these experiences.
Raven, for those who want information about the REST program, where do they go? What do they do?
So if you wanted to become a participant in one of the sessions that we have, they could go to supportgroupcentral.com, and they have a plethora of different programs to sign up for, but ours is the VOA REST program. It stands for Resiliency Strength Time. So if they wanted to come in, and if you're a frontline worker and you're experiencing some type of stress and you need some rest from just everything that's been happening with this pandemic, then just shoot on over to supportgroupcentral.com and sign up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for giving back, and again for your service to the country. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you for having me today.